Hey guys, so you have seen this before. I'm not going to speak in depth on the slides because again this is just a review, but let's refresh ourselves on what analysis actually is. Okay? So whenever we're analyzing something in life, we're looking at how it's put together, how it's made, what its structure is. A rhetorical analysis looks at the way an author constructs their writing to serve their purpose, whether that purpose is to persuade, inform, or entertain. We want to make sure that we're doing analytical writing instead of descriptive writing. So we might say what we notice in a text, but we're always going to then add how the thing we noticed is serving the author's purpose. If we stop at just what we notice, we've only done description and we haven't done analysis. So here's a look at the way description and summary feel and sound different than analysis. I can read a presidential speech and I can say, oh, here's what the president is doing. They're using ethos to make a point about our new reality. But with analysis, I can make that observation at the same time as pointing out what that specific choice from the writer is actually doing. So I can say the ethos that the president employs proves that he can lead the country. So there's an effect or a purpose to the thing that I just noticed. We've talked a lot about verbs because verbs really make everything work, literally. And one of the ways you can know that you are doing analysis is by picking verbs that force you to explain an effect or a purpose or a consequence. Descriptive writing often uses says or tells or writes, and you know how I feel. Says and tells, forever banished from the kingdom of AP language. Analytical writing is going to force you to finish up your thought by using a verb that opens the door to explanation. So the metaphor and the simile reveal something, not just he writes using metaphor and simile. That's an idea that just closes off. So we want to pick good verbs because it opens up our writing and it actually forces us to just do the explanation that counts as analysis. If you need a reminder on some of our verbs, we've got our slide here. You also have a handout on good verbs for analysis, so you can pull from that too. But there's some really good stuff on the right-hand side here. And on the left, I've reminded you of the danger zone says and tells. I've also noted that the guys in yellow, those can be really good analysis verbs depending on what you do with them. So I don't want you to feel like you have to stay away from them. Just know that they kind of only work if you work. And it really depends on what you do next after you use those verbs. So the verbs on the right are the ones I would really like you to challenge yourself to use and to use them accurately, right? Don't say that the author's questioning if the author's not questioning. Don't say that there's a claim if it doesn't seem to be an actual claim. Okay? So we want to make sure that we are tuned into the verbs in our writing because they can really govern the type of writing that we're doing and make our writing much stronger. So here's another way where we can see that what we do with the verb helps us go from summary or description into analysis. He uses metaphor and simile. He says he mourns the 4th of July. In the comparison between the 4th of July and a funeral, he argues that the holiday is hardly worth celebrating. So I have my observation. In the comparison, I'm observing the comparison. This is exactly what the sentence above did. It's observing a comparison, a figurative comparison. And now I'm telling you what that comparison does to serve the author's purpose. Alright, this is just a reminder of your basic analysis outline. And you will have this PowerPoint available to you without the voiceover, so you can spend as much time as you need on each slide. You could copy and paste from the slides if that's helpful. But this is our basic reminder. We've got our introduction. Based on the issue at hand, we use PASTA to fill out our introduction by identifying the purpose of the text, the audience, the subject or topic, the tone, and the author. And then our thesis, we name the rhetorical choices, and we tell our audience what they're allowing the writer to accomplish. We've got 2 to 3 body paragraphs. Each one should have a topic, textual evidence, and then tons of analysis, right? This is where we get our money, make our money with our commentary. And then you can conclude briefly, shortly, sweetly. Do not panic if you're taking the test and you run out of time for the conclusion. It happens. It's not going to be the end of the world, certainly, if you've got great body paragraphs. Alright, so here's a quick look into our thesis, and I know that my head is in the way. I'm going to move it up once you see that we're looking at how our thesis must be defensible and answer the prompt. How is a thesis defensible here? I'm accurately naming rhetorical choices that I see. I'm not saying that the text uses repetition if it doesn't actually use repetition. I'm also, Alright, sorry about that, guys. The best laid plans, right? Okay. So, I mentioned that it has to be defensible. You have to accurately tell us what the author is trying to do. Entertain, persuade us of what, inform us about what. So, for example, if I read a passage and I notice the following things: a celebration of nature. The author's trying to persuade us to appreciate nature. Lots of repetition. A fantastic piece of imagery with a description of a forest scene. And a really joyful, happy tone. I might compose the following defensible, awesome thesis. In her essay, The Green Dream, Tina Treehugger employs vivid imagery and repeated commands to convince her audience that nature is the source of all great creativity. Alright? So just a reminder about what your thesis needs to look like. And you could certainly use that template and just fill it in. Okay, so this slide offers us a sample body paragraph template. Again, I know that my head is in the way, so I'm going to take just a minute and I'm going to turn off the webcam, and then I'll pick back up, because at this point our slides get pretty full, and unfortunately I got a big head. It's going to be in the way the whole time. Alright, so hold up. Alright, so this analysis body paragraph template reminds you that you want to organize your paragraph around a major idea, and that's where you can also name the rhetorical choice that helps the writer convey that idea. We need textual evidence to prove that the rhetorical choice exists, and then we need deep commentary where you say, here's what that rhetorical choice does and why, and here's why it's effective and why. Okay? Remember that the commentary really is going to make or break your score, so you want to strive for as in-depth and specific commentary as possible. Here's a sample body paragraph that we did when we read Lou Gehrig's Speech to Baseball. And you can see I've color-coded it so that you can identify the in-depth commentary, and also the way that the textual evidence is not taking over the paragraph. The textual evidence is in service of the commentary. The commentary should always be the most significant portion of your paragraph, and that's why I've had you color code all year, so that you can visually have a sense of whether you're meeting that target. Alright, the next few slides are going to review some of the things that you can analyze. They're not in-depth reviews. If you feel like you need to go back and have in-depth review of these, please let me know so I can make separate videos. But the idea is just a bigger overview so you have a sense of what you remember and what you still need to work on. Okay? So we know that we can analyze an author's word choice. We might notice abstract or concrete language, formal or informal language, figurative language, or words that have extra meaning to them, which we call connotative diction. Don't forget, with diction, you have to tell me what kind of diction the author is using. Don't just say they use diction, okay? So I could really notice if there's lots of abstract ideas floating throughout a piece. Things like love and honor and truth. I could also really notice if there is lots of figurative language, things that seem highly descriptive, or I could even notice a very informal, conversational, humorous diction. And I can make an argument about what that does to the author's message. We can also analyze syntax, how a sentence is built. If it sounds like Yoda, flipped around, Yoda I am. I might notice if the complete idea comes at the end in a periodic sentence or at the beginning. I might notice missing connectors. I bought apples, oranges, peaches, grapes. I might notice lots of connectors. I bought apples and oranges and peaches and grapes because I love fruit. Rhetorical questions and repetition also fit under syntax. I've given you examples that you can read through with all of these devices, but I'll leave that to your own time since my recording limit is about 15 minutes on this guy, and we're already going to be at 2 videos as it is, okay? Tone. I know a lot of you don't like it, but here's the thing. Everything has tone. So you get stuck. You're like, what do I analyze? Tone. Because everything we write has tone. So don't forget that tone is the writer or the speaker's attitude towards the subject, towards his audience, or towards himself. So we're really interested in what is the tone. We have to characterize the tone, right? Tone is not pathos. Pathos is audience, tone is author. I speak to you with a particular tone. It makes you feel a particular way. How you feel is pathos. How I speak to you is tone. Okay? This is a reminder of some of the ways that language creates tone, right? Specific phrases can make a sentimental tone, can make a more tolerant or patient tone, or a really bitter, resentful tone. And then here are some of the tone words that we could use, right? Always start with the basic positive, negative, neutral. The thing I just read was the tone positive, negative, or neutral. And then once you choose one of those, you can pick a more specific tone word. But we always want to say the author uses this kind of tone. Fill in the blank. And then we're going to say, oh, I see it in the text right here with this phrase or this image. And then, what does the tone do? How does it help convey the argument? How does it help inform? How does it help entertain? So we're characterizing the tone. We are showing you where in the tone it exists, where in the text that tone exists. And then we're explaining in our commentary how that tone serves the author's purpose. And here's a sample analysis. Alright, in just a minute you're going to have to click over to part 2, okay? And we'll finish up with the slides.